So your first programming assignment has two parts. The first part is straight out of the book. Straight out of the book to the point where you can use the submit program, which I will cover in just a couple minutes, to show so you can actually check your answers before you turn it in. So you should all be able to get complete scores for the first part of this because the computer will tell you if you got it right or wrong. Okay. So this assignment is in either by yourself or in pairs. I'm not going to force you to work in pair if you don't want to, but you may work in pairs. No triples, quads, quintuplets, sextuplets, none of that stuff. Pairs or by yourself. Okay, so when you go to turn this in, you should have a folder where you put part 1 and part 2. You put them together. You zip, because it's now a folder, you're going to zip it, put it up into Blackboard. Okay, each of you are responsible for putting that up in a Blackboard. If one of you does and one of you doesn't, one of you gets scores and the other doesn't. Okay, so right, if you said you did part of this work, you should be uploading your part of the work. And if you both do, then you equally share in it. If one of you uploads it and the other doesn't, then we assume one of you did the work and the other didn't, and so your grade will reflect that. Don't count on your partner to say you did your part of the work. This is hard to see from over here. Okay, so this is from the lab, comparing voting records using dot products. It's on these pages in the book. So this is deep into chapter 2. If you didn't get there, you'll have to finish reading to get there. So this is going to use the dot product to compare voting records of various senators. There's a data file and stuff that's described in the book, and the code they have will help you see how to read that. And basically, you're going to come up with and then implement. So in this function, let me see if I click on this, is it going to do the right thing? Mostly the right thing. It wants to save it. I wanted it to open it. Python script. Well, can't save it. I will go find it in my text editor just so I can show it to you. So this is the function. Is that readable or does it need a bigger font? Bigger? Better. Okay, so this function, whatever it's politics lab. So you'll see in here, there's a couple of lines in the beginning that include this weird number. If you want to get automatic scoring, do not delete those lines. Those are comments that are important because it looks up what the answers are supposed to do. You'll then see def, the name of a function, lots of comments. This tells you what the arguments have to look like, what the output has to look like, and gives you a couple of examples. So even before you submit to the automatic grading program, you should be able to take these inputs, these examples, and get the right outputs. Right? So it should give you the ability to check your code as you go through that, describes a little bit what you want to do, and then it ends with the only executable line is pass, which is no up. So I want to make sure you saw that. Okay. Each of the functions you have to do are in this file. There are a couple you're going to have to implement. And you basically fill them in between the end of the comment and the word pass. That will give you the appropriate code. So you're only going to do a couple of them. There's 2.2, 2.12, 2, 4, 7, 8, and 9. You don't have to do the rest of them. And to give you a head start, I gave you one, which you actually need because it's useful in terms of like building the data, and then 12.3 as an example. So you can just, if you're not sure, like when you go to submit stuff, if you get something syntactically wrong, I actually recommend you put these two in and just get it to automatically grade those two for you because these two should come out correct. If not, then you're doing something wrong with the submission. I'm going to go over the submission process in just a minute. You're actually not submitting that for a grade. That is just your feedback. Did you do this right or not? You're going to turn it in by putting it in a file folder and turning it into us. Right? So you'll still get turned in for that. If you cannot figure it out, you might still get partial credit for having code that's close because it only takes one quote and you get a syntax error and you can't get it to run and whatever, and you can't figure everything out. And then I have some hints for doing some of the other parts of the question. So any questions on this first part? Second part of the assignment is, so in that assignment, in the first part of the assignment, you're either going to find bitter rivals or the most, well, actually you find both. The most bitter rivals in the Senate, and this is in 2009, so it's not relevant for today's data, but, and the most similar. Choose one of those two. Find the photos of those two people on the internet, okay? Download them to your directory. You might choose to resize them. Doesn't really matter hugely, but if you have a photo of, I don't actually have no idea what the answer to these things are going to be. So, some senator, and like they're in a large crowd and they're one person, this isn't going to work so well. You want to get something that's pretty much their head. So if you get a really big photo, crop it down to be about their head, because what you're going to do is you're going to blend them. You know what I mean by a blend? So if you read in chapter 2, they had a sort of photo blend. This face blends slowly into that face. And the more lined up the faces are, the better that works out if you want them to look reasonable. If you want to have funny artistic effects and you have two faces, one looking left, one looking right, they will blend and there'll be a two-faced person in the middle, which might be appropriate. Depends on your view of things. Anyhow, so you're going to do this blending, which really is just vector averaging, right? Vector weighted averages. We'll come back to that. We'll cover that before we get done today. And so basically, you're then going to you have two functions to write: one to do the actual averaging, and then one that's going to do the rest of it. And then for extra credit, see if you can find a Python function to make a movie instead of a bunch of individual frames. So you might be saying, I have no idea how to read an image, whatever. We're going to cover that in just a couple of minutes. That's why I wanted to cover this, so that when I cover that stuff, you're saying, I don't really care about this. I don't need to know this. Now you need to know that you need to know this stuff, because we're going to cover that. So, any questions on this? Mike. Did I say 3 parts?
Yeah. Well, up above it says it's a 2-part assignment, but then it says when you turn in,
Oh yeah. So the extra credit would be part 3. Right. So the extra, if you do the extra credit, that would be part 3. Right. So you don't have to do that one though. Okay. So, and yet, let me make a new buffer. Maybe I need this. Oh, can't easily do that. So I'm just going to come over here. So can you? That's still the same buffer, so hopefully you can see that. Let me get this guy out of the way. So I'm now in my directory where I have downloaded some of the resources, and I'm going to go to. So there's a grading.codingthematrix.com. They have a bunch of files in there. So if I go to edition 1, Oh, okay. So in this is where there's a bunch of files, including the one that's like Python Lab and right the things. So this is where you're going to download those files from. I actually mentioned that in the assignment. You can download them. You can just download all of them if you want. In the assignment, I also mentioned the submit, which is in a different directory. Oh, actually, no, submit is there. Submit.py is in that directory. But to use them, you make your own directory called matrix, and then you fill in your code. So this is how you get automated testing of your own of your code as you're working on this stuff. So this is actually one of the ones you don't have to do. I thought I'd do an example from the first chapter, the function problems. So in here, they asked me to do, I have no idea, I can't read at this angle, what it asked me to do. But I filled in a problem where it wanted me to do something, and then I filled in the code, return whatever that code says, right? That was my answer for that problem. So this is, even though we're not covering every question in the chapters, if you want to really master some of this stuff and you're struggling with the class, you can take any of the lab assignments from this book, answer those, and make sure you can answer those, and then get your answers checked. So that's one of the reasons I wanted to make sure I showed you how to do this. So after I have that, I then just say submit, Python 3.4. Submit the function.py, and now it's going to ask me for a name, and it's going to tell me, I can't see what it said, but hopefully it told me, it was asking me a question. So it's asking me how many do I want to grade. I think I only answered the first 1 or 2, so I'll say 1 to 2. And then it's going to run through and tell me, hopefully that I got them right. Correct answer verified. So I got those 2 right. What do you know? You can mess with them to get them wrong, so you can sort of get a feel for what's going on. So this is something, for that first part of the programming assignment, if you really want to take the time, you can work through this and get it right. Now I forgot, I will post as an announcement, because I actually have no office hours. I mean, I have office hours on Tuesday, like the day this is due, but nothing next week because Monday and Tuesday are holidays and my office hours are Monday and Tuesday. So I will hold office hours next week, probably Wednesday, maybe Wednesday and Thursday. Shoot me an email if you're struggling with trying to get this stuff going. So the other thing I wanted to show you, and I will also put this in the announcement. I thought I put it in the assignment, but I can tell I didn't save it in Blackboard the last time because it wasn't at the top of the assignment. How many of you have not yet installed Python and you are struggling to get it to run? Okay. Not installed. Well, so yeah, you might have other ways of getting it to run. So I wanted to show you. There is this useful site called Python Cloud, I think it is. I can't read it up there again. PythonAnywhere.com. Basically, you can do your homework in a web browser. You don't have to install Python. You can go there. However, it doesn't automatically save everything very nicely. You get a little folder. You can set stuff up. There's some limits. But especially if right now you are struggling and you don't want to wait to get help, you can go there, do some basic Python, get it to run. Okay. The first part of this assignment is probably, depending on how you code it, even though there's like 5 functions you have to write, each of them are 2 or 3 lines of Python code. If you write it carefully, 10 if you write it very verbosely, so it's still not a ton of Python. Okay, you can use this website by like having another buffer and cut and paste between them and do a bunch of stuff with that if you're struggling with Python. But you're all CS games or security majors. You should be able to download and install a basic package by now. If not, come see me at my office hours. We can work through some of those other issues. Any questions on now the programming assignment other than how to do it? Okay, so I'm going to jump over and then we'll come back to the, come on browser, leave. Okay, it won't go away. Die. Okay, 2 PowerPoints.